Welcome to Endure to the End. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Josh. We talk about faith, marriage, and the endurance it takes to stay grounded through life's challenges in this modern day from an LDS point of view.
We're here to discuss doctrinal topics through real stories, conversations, and the hope we find along the way as we learn to endure to the end.
Let's get into it.
Okay. Welcome back to Endure to the End. And it's been an intense past couple of weeks, but we're excited to podcast and to share with you guys our thoughts, our experiences, and ultimately our testimony of the gospel and how we struggle through it, but try to endure.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here too. I think, we have a lot of good things in the works. We talked about last episode kind of what the direction our podcast is taking, and Josh and I are really excited to just put a lot of time and effort into our episodes and really kind of following, I guess, God's plan for us and just what we feel prompted to share and just to uplift, really. That's our main goal, is to uplift and to honestly grow ourselves from this podcast too, and just share joy.
With that being said, we do want to put a disclaimer on this episode that we are going to be talking about depression, all things depression, and both of our experiences with that. And so just wanted to be
like a trigger warning that we're going to talk about mental health and just struggles that we've individually had. So it'll be heavy a little bit, but also we have hope.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, definitely. So today's episode, we're going to be focusing on when hope doesn't feel, what would you say? Like, it doesn't feel like we can continue on. It feels dim,
Yeah.
Like we have hope, but
we want to start the episode with a scripture, and then we're going to kind of, after we read that, we're going to, throughout the episode, we're going to talk about what's happened in our life the past couple of months, and essentially how we've kind of made it through this summer. Okay, so one of my favorite scriptures, and honestly, it's kind of the theme of this whole podcast, is 2 Nephi 31, verse 20. It says, "Wherefore ye must press forward with a steadfastness in Christ, having a perfect brightness of hope and a love of God and of all men. Wherefore if ye shall press forward, feasting upon the word of Christ, and endure to the end, behold, thus saith the Father, ye shall have eternal life." So, like we were saying before, enduring to the end, sometimes it's hard to have a perfect brightness of hope all the time. I feel like, if I'm being honest, I kind of fade in and out of that at times, or when things can get really hard. It's not that I don't have hope, but it's not like I am a beaming ray of sunlight, So for these past couple of months, Caitlin and I, a big part of the reason why we paused the podcast was because we were moving to Florida for the summer to open up a new business. And unfortunately, things didn't work out. Things did not work out the way that we wanted them to, which was hard for us. It was really hard because we were
really hopeful.
We were really, really hopeful.
Yeah.
It's something that I had been planning for the better part of a decade. It held immense meaning to me. And it was different than what we thought it would be like. And the thing I think that we had a hard time with, or it's not that it was hard, it's just that, it made us really think, was that we felt prompted to go there. We felt prompted to go there, prompted to stay there. And despite our best efforts, things just didn't work out.
And I think that's what's so crazy sometimes with life, is something can feel so right in the moment, and you can feel like you're really following the path that God has set out for you, but then it to still not look or go the way that you thought it would. And it's really discouraging, to understand that, because in the moment it did feel like the right move for our family.
And to be clear, this isn't just a like, we're sad it didn't work out, but it cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like we really risked to do this.
Yeah.
It felt like the right move. And then it felt like everything just kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
Everything just kind of fell apart. And, you know,
It crumbled for sure.
There's lots of different things that went into it. There's a lot of different reasons why it happened. Agency of others, choices people chose to make that affected the success or failure of that branch. And candidly, I struggled to, like, my own personal efforts weren't enough to fix it, which was really hard for me personally. From a mental health standpoint, I was probably in the darkest place I've ever been in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I kind of just had to sit in it. There wasn't any immediate relief for it. And we kind of just sat there that summer trying to hold it all together while things were slipping through our fingers. And the funny thing is that meanwhile, this whole entire time, Caitlin and I are running, something that I never really wanted to do. But for me, running gave me purpose, and it gave me a sense of accomplishment that couldn't be taken away from me. And the lessons that I learned from running really helped me with enduring through that. But what are your thoughts on this summer? Because it wasn't just like I feel like we kind of have had a laundry list of things that we could look at and kind of just sit in a corner and pout about, but we've chosen really not to. Not because it wasn't hard for us, but there were a lot of things that were really hard. Like I feel like for our marriage this summer, these past 6 months have really been like a crucible. It's been one of the most difficult like moments. Actually, I would say the past year and a half has been the most difficult time for our marriage.
Yeah, I think the hard part with things that we've gone through in the past, I would say year and a half, and I've kind of talked about this with some friends, that in marriage, relationships, even friendships, sometimes your partner can only give a certain amount, you know? And I feel like when my dad passed away, you know, I was maybe at like 20% and you were giving 80. And then I feel like this summer, with everything that you went through, I was kind of making up more of the difference, and you were maybe on like, it was like 30-70. I'm just throwing numbers out, you know, but I think it's a dance, right? Where we have to support each other no matter what, but sometimes our partner can't show up the way that they have in the past because of the things that are currently happening at that time. And I think we've both been in the mud, and we've had to really sit in that, sadly, to work through it and push forward and just do our best, but also give each other grace. And so I think this summer felt so heavy because of the stress you had from work.
I also think that you saw my dreams get crushed.
Yes, and that too. I saw people make some, you know, really, in my opinion, not great decisions, you know, and selfish decisions hurt that, and in turn hurt the business, but hurt our family and hurt you. And I don't think, you know, anyone can really understand the dream that you had to live in Miami, to open a business there, how you felt pulled to it. And I can totally understand feeling that way, because I've had moments in my life where I've traveled to places and I've experienced things where I really felt like God was showing me that was going to be a part of my life, or there was a reason why I went there, right? Or you feel called to it, pulled to it. And so I think almost in a way it crushed my heart and soul too, because I was living it with you and you had talked about it for so long. And then we actually made that happen. And on top of it, like you said, we felt so good about it, and we really did just get crushed.
Yeah, we did. And we're not trying to wallow in everything, but
it's just the reality.
The reality is that it was like an olive press It was an olive press moment where I did not, like, I flickered in and out of having a perfect brightness of hope, because truthfully, there were moments this summer where I didn't feel very good about myself.
Yeah,
And
it was super discouraging.
For people that listen to this podcast, some context as to who I am and like what I'm about and what I've done professionally probably would help. What I'm known for in the pest control industry, aside from owning businesses, is that I used to be really, really good at door-to-door sales. Really, really good at door-to-door sales. I had a breakout year and sold 1,500 pest control accounts, which, for context, that's abnormal. That's not normal. For the vast majority of my selling career, it wasn't normal. Like, selling 150 to 250 accounts is fairly normal per year, per summer. And that was what the majority of my career was like. And then I had like this moment where I gave everything I had and sold 1,500 accounts and broke the industry record. That was years ago. Like, it was in 2019, right before Caitlin and I met. And Caitlin was on her mission still, or was just barely getting ready to come home. But I have struggled with performance anxiety around that for years, because I don't like the idea of being defined by sales. I don't like that as it is, because I don't like my accomplishments being a defining characteristic of who I am, because they're not who I am. Like, who I am enabled me to achieve that, but I'm more than door knocking. I'm more.
A lot of it was the grit too, and the mindset, and the hard work, the discipline.
I was single.
Yeah,
I was single. I didn't have anything else to focus on, and I could really throw myself 100% at it with zero other distractions. There was nothing else that was happening. There was nobody else that was attacking me from different angles. Nobody calling into account my character, or I don't know. It was more clean. And so, but at the same time, when I did that, in hindsight, as I've talked to a therapist, I feel like it was a really good experience, one that I needed to do to prove to myself a lot of different things and learn things about myself. But it was also kind of a traumatic thing, because I pushed myself to a point where my body just doesn't ever want to go back there again. Like, hormonally, I just can't, from a mental health standpoint, I can't handle it.
Well, and you've just progressed. Like you said, you're a dad now, you have a family, you have a wife, you have several businesses. Like, your life just doesn't look the same anymore. And it's too much to balance.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, maybe it's a personality thing. It's just who I am. I really, really struggle to, like, when it comes to sales, when you already have performance anxiety and people expect you to be able to throw down 10 to 15 sales per day just because that's what I used to do and I could do it, and then you don't, and you're selling with your best efforts, trying to juggle everything. Yeah, you're probably
being a dad, yourself. Yeah,
being a CEO that's of multiple businesses, and they reach out to you consistently throughout the day, having to deal with things that, I don't know, just come out of nowhere. Like, and that combined with trying to sell, you end up averaging 3 to 4 accounts a day. And it's one of those things where that accomplishment of selling those 1,500 accounts, it became too wrapped up in who I was as a person. Like, it did become wrapped up in my identity.
Yeah.
Quick break to tell you about today's sponsor, Zunex Pest Control. Zunex is a family-run business that started back in 2021 in Seattle, and today we proudly serve both the Seattle area and Salt Lake City area. We help people deal with things nobody wants living in their home: rats and mice, ants, wasps, and any other pests that tend to show up when you least expect them. But honestly, most of our customers aren't dealing with a massive infestation. They're on a general pest prevention program because they want peace of mind, knowing that whether it's a serious rodent issue or something simple, they're covered. If that sounds like you, we'd love to help. You can call us at 801-935-8846. That's 801-935-8846. That number works for both Utah and Seattle. And if you mention this podcast, you'll get $100 off your very first service. That's Zunex Pest Control, protection, prevention, and peace of mind.
And this summer, the honest truth is that maybe I could have turned things around if I had been able to sell the way that I had in the past. But mentally, I didn't have the capacity to do it.
Yeah.
It would have, I just didn't. I just didn't have it in me. And for me, it crushed me as a person and as a man to have something slip through my fingers and feel hopeful in that I can do this, I can be the person that I was, and then come up short.
Yeah.
And to know at the same time that I gave every ounce of myself. Because when this business was falling apart, there were multiple different things that were happening, things that I don't need to go in super detail with, because in leadership, the unfortunate thing is that you can do your absolute best by God, by your family, and by the business, and try your absolute best. But at the end of the day, people might not agree with you. And there are some people that, whether they don't want to accept any accountability for the decisions that they made that made everything happen, or my shortcomings, which I have shortcomings. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
There's definitely areas that I can work on. But honestly, this whole summer, I felt like a loser. Like I really did. And I've never really, I haven't struggled with that in a really long time. And I think that was probably hard for you to see, because not only did I feel like we were guided there to Florida to open up this dream for our business, for our family, and then for things, because of various reasons, a lot of which were the decisions of others, and then my inability through my own efforts to fix it. It was one of those things where it was hard to have a perfect brightness of hope and endure to the end. And really the only thing that really saved me, there was three things actually. And this is my recommendation to anybody that's going through really the thick of it, like the absolute thick of it, where
the thick mud.
Yeah, the thick mud where you have to sit in it and there's no immediate solution. There's no immediate solution and you're just uncomfortable, and you go back and forth between liking who you are and believing that you are these things, like these good things. Number one, what got me through it was holding on to my relationship with God and understanding His nature. His nature is one that all things that happen to us in this life, because He loves us, all things work out for our good, whether it feels like that or not.
Yeah, and a lot of the time it doesn't feel like it in the moment.
I would say most of the time it doesn't feel like it.
And it's confusing.
And it's very, very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I spent the majority of that summer asking God why. Why? Not from a place of anger, but because, dude, I just want to learn the lesson so I can check it off the list so I don't have to.
You're like, get this mud off of me now, and can I go to the next chapter?
Yes. It's like, okay, I got it. Let's move on.
Let's
move on to the next phase.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I know that God doesn't allow the agency of others as long as we're doing our very best. He doesn't allow the agency of others to thwart His plans. And His plans for us as His children are that we do go through hard things sometimes. We do have to learn how to trust. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, this summer was learning a lot about surrender. I learned that I, in and of myself and of my own efforts, I can accomplish a lot, but I, in and of myself, am not enough. I cannot force myself to get specific outcomes that I want. I can control the inputs. To the extent that I can, and even some of those I can't totally do because I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
But what comes out on the other end, ultimately, it's God's will. It's God's will,
and it's His plan.
And it's His plan for us. And so for me, I felt like God really was calling me into the wilderness this summer and asking me, will you trust in me if everything falls apart? If
and
everything
it did.
If everything
Yeah.
falls apart, if everything that you identify with falls apart, if you question who you are you still mine?
Well, that's the thing. Like you said, you lost joy in your work, but also you lost joy and a little bit of your spark in yourself. And
I did lose my spark.
And I think we both have felt that, and I'm sure there's people out there listening that have felt that too, where you lose yourself in it. And a lot of those thoughts, I believe, come from Satan and come from dark places where God doesn't want you to feel that way. It makes sense why we do feel that way in the thick of it, but we have to push through and realize, like you said, who we are and whose we are. We are God's children. Like he has us, he's got us. But in the moment, I really do resonate with what you're saying. It doesn't feel like sometimes he has us, but we know that he always pulls through, right?
Yeah, he does always pull through, but sometimes, we have to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, and sometimes we're so busy with wanting to do what it is that we want to do.
It can get blurry.
Even if we're well-intentioned.
Yeah.
Even if we're well-intentioned,
it's usually when our priorities are off too, and we've talked about that.
Yeah.
And I think that we've really come to realize that if we don't make God a priority in our lives and in our marriage, things are always going to feel chaotic and they're always going to feel off.
So circling back to the first thing, my relationship with God, the other thing is that the unique circumstance of being a CEO in a company, of being a father, being a parent, or being somebody that you're responsible to other people, is that you need to care about how things affect others. And I do deeply. Like, I have family members that invested in that business that I love unconditionally, fiercely, and it felt like I failed them. And I accept accountability for my mistakes, for my inability to not fix it the way maybe people think that I could just flip a switch and become, I don't know, super Josh and just throw down hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of pest control accounts, which I can't anymore. I just can't mentally do it anymore. But you have to trust that God has a plan for them as well. And it's not just about me. It's not just about me. It's not just about you. It's also, it's a whole web. And sometimes people need to learn lessons as well. It's not my responsibility to ensure, like they have their own relationship with God and with surrender and trust and effort and grace and hope and all those different things. And there's nothing that I can do to stop that. I can't protect people from that, and it's not right for me to try to. I need to accept accountability. But okay, so second option is my relationship with you. So in general, when you're going through the absolute thick of it, you need to understand your relationship with God and his nature, and that he loves you fiercely. And that absence and quiet, or what you might perceive as quiet, isn't. You just need to try to listen and take what you can learn from it. But number two is connection. You and I are best friends, and we have deep conversations all the time. There's I feel like we have deep conversations every single day. And we did this entire summer. We made our relationship a priority because it was a lifeline for us. Like, you could look at our Instagram from this past summer and think that Caitlin and I were just living it up. And that's because we were making each other a priority, not because our life was amazing, which we have a lot to be grateful for. We do.
Well, and we did have a lot of fun.
And we did have a lot of fun.
And a lot of people did actually message me and say that, like, your summer looked incredible.
And
it
in
looked
many
like so
ways
much
it
fun.
was.
Yeah, but that's the thing about social media and the mirage of social media. It's like, it's fun, and we had so many good memories, but I'm just telling you that there's so much more to it, and the only way we got through that is because we had those special moments together.
And, bringing this to running, the thing that I think is super important, and the thing that when I say that running, because running is the third thing for me personally, is that I learned so much about how the gospel lives in my body and how the body teaches us. It testifies of God, of Christ, of the plan of salvation, of enduring to the end. Like, enduring to the end and running have so many parallels, And during the summer, I learned that in order to increase your endurance, you have to do different types of training. 80% of your training should be around zone 2, which is a low heart rate. It's low effort. It's designed to be an easy pace. And I think that the lesson from that is that physiologically, you know you're in zone 2 if you're running and you feel like you can maintain that pace. And candidly, if you were like me, that might just be walking. Like, because I am
you have to start
overweight,
somewhere.
you have to start somewhere. And that could be a mixture of, because sometimes like when I first started, I couldn't run and stay in zone 2. Because you know you're in zone 2 when you can breathe through your nose and you can still have a conversation with somebody. Mm-hmm. But if you went a little bit faster, you wouldn't be able to. And so for me, running enabled me to have moments of time where I was communing with God through that moment, asking him, speaking with him, talking with him. And it's not like I'm outside praying out loud all the time. Sometimes I did.
Yeah.
And then we shared it together. And I feel like running enabled us to deepen our connection with each other and candidly with our relationship with God.
Because it's quality time and it took a lot of effort, and then also it is really hard. Especially when you haven't ran before. Like, it's tough. And like you said, a lot of the time it does feel like a prayer and it does feel spiritual, because I've had a lot of moments where I didn't think I could finish the run. I didn't think that I could get into a positive mindset, and it's hard.
We've helped each other through that.
Yeah. And you, like you said, you problem solve, you help each other through that. So that also is a parallel of like a dance through life and enduring and praying and asking God for help through that maybe specific run.
And sometimes maybe we're going too fast.
Yeah. And then the thought of like not running faster than you have strength. And I think, God probably was trying to humble us in a lot of ways, that maybe you were taking on too much, and you're trying to grow so many businesses and balancing so many things. And I mean, I don't know, you can speak on that, but I think sometimes it's easy for you to want more and want bigger and to go harder, right? And you expect a lot of yourself. You're hard on yourself. I mean, we all are to an extent, but I think sometimes we really do need to take a step back and we need to think about, what are my priorities in my life right now, and where am I filling those cups? Like, which cups am I picking? What am I pouring? And yeah, I think there's so much that goes into it, but I think I agree with all the things that you said of, we can still have hope through it all, but we also have to learn. We have to learn from our mistakes, and we have to learn from just the experiences, I guess, that we had.
Yeah. And it's not easy, and it's not always comfortable. In fact, enduring, you build endurance by being able to put up with a moderate amount of discomfort for very long periods of time. Mm-hmm. And in life, there are a lot of people that, I think that's just kind of like the default thing. We all have to do that. Mm-hmm. We all have to do that. And that's why I feel like running was such a rich thing for us. It was something shared, something that deepened our testimony of the gospel, our connection with each other, and it helped us to survive. It helped us to survive. And when I tell you that we were really in the thick of it, we really were. Like, we really, really, really were. And, it's not like everything's better now. Like, it's not like everything is better. There's a lot better. We have a lot more hope. Mm-hmm. But that hope came from holding tight to God, our relationship with God, feasting on his words, which in my opinion could mean more than just reading the scriptures. It's trying to align your life with his will, and then connecting with you, connecting with each other, and
even making memories as a family. And
then the last thing is integrating that into our life through running has been super meaningful. It's been like taking our testimonies that are inside of us and making it manifest physically.
Okay, so I think that we will do a part 2 on this episode, because I feel like there's so much to say about what happened this summer and
even just recently.
And yeah, even just recently, but we just felt like we felt prompted to talk about that there are going to be times in your life where the hope that we have is still there. It's just a really, really dim light. And I don't want anyone out there to fully lose their hope, because there's actually been times in my life where I feel like I have really, really gotten to a low place where it was hard to even put one foot in front of the other. And I know there's people out there that have felt that too, because I think a huge part of depression is just even getting up for the day and doing what you have to do, right? And as a parent, you just have, like you said, you have responsibilities. You have things that you have to do, and it's good to have those motivations, but also we have to rely on God to get us through, because there is nobody else, really. I mean, like, we help each other, like you said, and we're partners in life and we're best friends, but really the only person that truly understands is our Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. They have a perfect knowledge of what we are currently going through and what we're going to go through, later on as well. And so I think when you get repeated disappointments, that's kind of what we talked about. It's hard to move forward, because we had a lot of repeated disappointments, and we have had a lot of
an abnormal amount.
Yeah. And so we're tired.
All together.
You're tired, right? And I think a lot of people in the world are tired with everything that's going on. It's depressing sometimes to even watch the news, to talk about events in the world. It's a lot. But we still have that trust that God is still working in our lives, and that's what we want to keep talking about, is that we have to stay faithful and we have to stay hopeful through the muck, the dirt, just all of it. And yeah, there's just so much to be grateful for, like you said, always. And seeing the silver lining throughout everything, that's been probably the best thing that I have ever done in my life, is to constantly be grateful, constantly see the silver lining. But you need to be becoming and following God's path. And you just need to be better, do better, and to learn, right? And you cannot stay stagnant. You just can't, because that's not the purpose of this life. And yeah.
Sometimes you're forced to sit in the mud, but you have to do your very best not to wallow in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot I can say. We'll talk more about it this next episode, but I think that this next episode, what we'll go into a little bit more is the nature of God, and why doesn't he just save us? Why do we have to sit in the mud?
Yep. Okay. Well, thanks so much for listening, guys. And we'll catch you in part 2.
Yep.